Hi, so my name's Peter, aka Dr. Blues, and this is Dave.
Hi.
This video we're going to be talking about our map, Trial of the Minemasons, and just kind of discussing our thought processes behind the various designs and puzzles. So Dave, do you want to start by talking about the spawn area?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things we had to try and work out at the start of the game was how to present the kind of intro information
Yeah.
to set up the game. So we thought a cabin in a ship would be a kind of natural way to do that. So we've got very few signs here, just playing on peaceful mode, not teleporting and not breaking blocks or anything else.
I know we had a particular emphasis on trying to not have too many notes and, too many signs, because I often find in adventure maps and stuff, it's really frustrating when you have to keep having to sort of exit the game to read really lengthy notes.
Yeah, and I think, or just reading big walls of like 19 signs or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically,
yeah.
for those that have played the map, you'll have seen these notes. But basically, the idea here was just to give some exposition quite quickly, just to help set up the story. So this map's just telling you where you've come from, what you're doing there, and your first objective, which is to find a bed.
Yeah.
And then also included a little extract from a book, which is basically just giving you a little bit of background on who the Minemasons are. That when the update comes for the to having the editable books, then we won't need that anymore. But
Yeah, that would be really helpful actually, because I know you've put quite a lot of hours into
the program we used is called Image to Map. If you just Google that, you'll be able to see that. It's pretty easy actually.
The other thing I was worried about a lot was that, like I've seen a lot of maps start with boats and this kind of storyline, this vague storyline, and I was quite worried that it was generic. And I remember I was trying to build that massive ship with a TNT cannon on it, and I was trying to do something really extravagant. But I think we just decided that people accept at the start of a map that they just need an easy to spawn in area with easy information, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and it's a fairly modest boat. It no longer has the gigantic TNT cannon.
I got very obsessed with the cannon.
Yeah.
And then one day Dave decided to blow up the whole cannon and the boat.
It was becoming a small nuisance to me. It was it was goading me. It was goading me.
Yeah, so I gave up after that. Became quite demoralised. I don't think I came and helped you on the map for about 2 days after that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we move on to the path. The general feel of the path we wanted to give was kind of, you talk about what kind of effect we wanted to give.
Well, the idea was to try and make the player feel like they've just come across an abandoned path. Sometimes on maps, everything feels like it's been pre-laid out for you, and you lose that sense of immersion that things are just happening by accident, even though obviously this is a created map. We wanted to just try and give that sense that kind of things are happening accidentally, and that the player is discovering things on their own. If you go down that way, for those of you who've played the map and been down there, it's just a dead end. And we've just got these little signs just to help guide you if you're not sure, just to direct you to this so-called Alderman's Inn, which is where you need to sleep.
Yep. So
I'm just going to change my my game to what's it called? Creative.
are you in survival?
Yeah. Game mode. Yeah, there we go. It's a good feature on this new update, actually, that you can.
I agree.
Yeah.
Really helpful.
Yeah.
We're currently actually playing on the land. So we're on kind of 1.3 week A 560. They have all the weird codes.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with that feature, the LAN.
It's very useful.
Jeb in general has done a brilliant job.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's given the community what they want. Again, that sign just kind of fits with the idea of everything being a little bit derelict.
Yeah, great.
So we move on to the inn. I can't remember who originally came up with the idea of the inn, but we both wanted to make it quite Oblivion-like. So we always use the expression "happening upon an inn."
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to feel like you come across this kind of like warm, homely inn in the middle of a forest.
Yeah, there was this. I think there was a scene on Oblivion where you meet like a sort of a person that asks you to come into some sort of evil group of wizards or something. I can't remember which one it was. And you meet them in the inn, And it was that I like that feeling of sort of feeling like you're discovering a kind of secret world. I was like that a lot.
So here's one of the locals. Happy as ever.
He's in here a lot, actually.
Yeah,
He never seems to move, but he enjoys it.
He looks like he hasn't shaved in a few days.
We feed him sometimes.
And this is the dog that's caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, he was on some of the because I've obviously updated the game over time, and some updates he's there, and other times he's not, depending on how I feel. Because basically sometimes he was not sitting and he was chasing after players, and it was becoming confusing. A lot of players were burning him.
Yeah, you said I've never seen that happen actually.
Yeah, you just killed him with this.
Yeah,
you just murdered him.
Sort of guy. You know what's funny? I didn't even realise. Or sort of
a lot. When I actually made the fire, I didn't think that people would push him into the fire, but they did, which tells you a lot.
Tells you a lot. Human nature. Got a little newspaper in here, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, again, it's not sort of really that relevant to the story, but I thought it was just a cool little feature. And also just with the better infrastructure demand, it just sort of justifies the bad pathway and stuff like that.
I thought it was quite funny, the better infrastructure demanded. It kind of suggested that it was this like quite serious Minecraft world outside of...
Yeah, it was just to try and sort of give a little, to suggest there's a bigger world out there. But yeah.
Yeah. Here's another one of the locals. Looks quite similar to the first.
Yeah.
Sort of an inbred.
We can talk.
Yeah. So this is probably Alderman, isn't it? I guess.
We never really said he was necessarily Alderman, but he could be. Well, Alderman, an Alderman is just an old. It's just an old.
Older man.
It's a medieval term. It's a position, like in.
Right.
But anyway, won't go on about that. But
here's the dialogue system, which we were quite keen on. It actually was probably one of the first things we kind of decided on putting in the map, and it was. We don't know if we've seen it before. I think we kind of independently came up with it.
Yeah, I think it may have been in other maps, but we certainly had the idea, and we were initially going to do a more complicated version where you could actually input different answers, and depending on on some games nowadays where how you talk to a character determines the game.
Yeah.
And this was. But we could have done it with Redstone, but it was too complicated, and quite frankly, it got a bit boring. So we just narrowed it down to basically 2 answers, and when you press it, you get a map, which comes, as you may have seen, comes from 2 dispensers, and we'll look at the Redstone circuitry in a minute. But the idea here was, and this is actually quite an important feature, you have to press both answers before this pressure plate will become activated.
Oh, I didn't know you did that.
If you try and walk over the pressure plate without having asked the 2 questions, it won't produce the 2 notes. But once you have, the 2 notes fall. And the reason we did this was because these 2 notes that fall make a reference to the earlier conversation. So he says, "I overheard your conversation with the bartender." Well, if you haven't had the conversation, it's no good him saying that. So
yeah, it
basically just means that the conversations happen in the right order.
Sure. So then we head upstairs after you've spoken to that guy, and he basically, in essence, says, "You got to meet me somewhere. I know about the Minemasons." And we walk over this pressure pad into the inn.
Yeah.
Into the sleeping quarters. So, do you want to talk about what that pressure pad actually does?
Yeah. Basically, when you walk over that pressure pad, it opens up, and we'll come back this way actually. It opens up a piston in the floor, which actually, if I just delete these blocks here, you can see here it retracts this piston, and it kills the guy. He falls all the way down here and dies. But it looks like he's just walked off when secretly he's been murdered.
You created a little killing chamber for him.
Yeah, I gave him a little torch just so he could see. I didn't want him to die in the dark. But basically, the idea is to give the impression that he's wandered away, so that in the morning it looks like he's gone.
Some people don't notice it.
A lot of people do.
I think for the people that do notice it, I think it's one of those really nice touches, and it took a bit of effort to do, but I think people really appreciate those kind of really subtle
features.
Features, basically, yeah. So anyway, then we go on to the mushroom trail, which was kind of my area. The main problem we had with it was getting a balance between making it too obvious where the mushrooms were and too subtle. I mean, if it's too obvious, I think it kind of kills the sense of discovery. I don't know how to phrase that, but
I know what you mean. It has to feel a little, I suppose, like a little bit obscure, so the player feels like they're actually
yeah,
achieving something. Nevertheless, I'll show you one thing up here that was causing some problems in an earlier version of the map. Basically, we had to make sure the mushrooms pointed you in the right way. These two mushrooms, you wouldn't think to look at it, but initially we had these mushrooms were like all the way up here,
yeah.
and people were
People
going up the
started to go
mountain,
off. Yeah,
which is fair enough because how would they know? But once we deleted them, people were looking in the right area because actually, if you make it too obscure or awkward, people will go
yeah.
wandering.
The other thing is just quickly point this out. I don't know how many people on the map, Dave, come back here.
Oh yeah, sure.
How many people on who played the map actually noticed? But we tried to have very subtle references to the Minemasons, the sort of triangular symbol.
Yeah,
This is meant to be one of them.
yeah. It was sort of, very subtle thing. It's not if you it's to sort of. It's not even necessarily like definitely a Mine Mason triangle. It was just to try and suggest to the player that kind of they're in Mine Mason territory. But
so we move on to the rest of the mushroom trail.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you're up there. We'll just fly beyond this bit.
We'll fly beyond it. But basically, we planted all these trees to give you some cover. You'll actually notice we're not very many other trees, other than this pathway.
Yeah. I was actually trying to create a sort of a path by having trees either side of the mushrooms, so it kind of guided the player a little bit more.
Yeah. We had to expand this opening as well because some people, quite understandably, were missing the cave.
Yeah. It's amazing, like, how much you assume people will figure out.
Oh yeah.
When you're designing the map, you think people are going to play it in a certain way, and you find very shortly that they don't. Just because they haven't designed the map, they don't figure out some of the things that we assumed them to.
Yeah, when you spent lots of hours.
Yeah, lots and lots of hours
doing it, you start to forget just how new it will feel to people who haven't played it.
Yeah. So this is the room where you meet the bloke you spoke to previously. A few people are kind of wondering how we suspended the lava.
Yeah, if you jump down,
Ooh.
You'll see here that it's totally suspended. We did that using MC Edit. Now, I think a fair number of people are probably aware of how you do that, but it's just a cool little way of achieving this effect.